on this computer. There we go. So we are now recording and I will get back to here. So what we aim to do here is give us a brief overview of what maths is in the foundation stage and how we can help with that. We shouldn't be too long, hopefully, doing this. I will make this available. I'll send out a PDF because there's a few links that you can follow because I don't want to completely flood you with information. There are lots of very mathsy terms that we now use that we didn't used to use. So just bear with. The children will probably tell you about them. You may have heard of things like subitizing already. What we aim to do, and it's the same with phonics, is we aim to give them the children the correct term and then they can use that term, and they're very, very good at doing so. So yeah, as you can see on here, there's a few things that we use in maths. We've got number blocks, we've got something called Numicon, which is the top right, which are little shapes. Got one here actually. They're plastic shapes with the number of holes that correspond to the number. We love them. We've got fingers showing different amounts that we use all the time, and obviously the numerals there as well. So what we're going to cover today, if my slideshow works, is how we teach maths in reception and what we cover during the year, the key maths concepts for the reception year, how you can support your child at home, and what those end of year goals are, because at the end of reception there is assessment. It's statutory, we have to send it to the government, and that will give you exactly what we assess the children at that point against. Now these are can or can't do at the moment. That's what the government asks us to do, and we don't teach towards that. It is a one-off assessment. We don't aim for that part. We just look at it at that point in the year and we decide where the children are at that point. Right, so maths in the foundation stage, the children are given opportunities for counting, for understanding and using numbers, calculating and simple addition and subtraction, and describing shape, space and measure. So for some of these, a bit vague. So for counting, it's up to and slightly beyond 20. We really aim to get to the point where we can correctly pronounce the teen numbers, because they're the real tricky ones. Suddenly you get to numbers like 12 that don't sound like 10 or 2, which is very tricky. And then crossing the tens boundaries. So when they get to 28, 29, knowing that the next is 30, and then they start their song again with 31, 32, 33, then they get to 40. So that's a focus. And then calculation, it's really about practical situations. So if we had 2 cars and you have 4 cars, how many cars are there together? So it's something that they normally be able to see, be able to manipulate, be able to move, and help them find out the answer. We're not expecting children, some children can, but we're not expecting them to be doing it in their head. It's all about having something to help them to work it out themselves. And then with shape, space and measure, the names and properties of simple 2D and 3D shapes. We haven't covered that yet this year, but we will be. Describing the position of objects, above, left, right, behind, under. Weight, heavier, lighter. We're not talking about grams at the moment, but we have really nice balance scales that we use to help them understand what more or less and heavier and lighter is. And length, so longer, shorter, higher, lower, thinner, wider. Lots of vocabulary. So in our math sessions, we have about 4 or 5 math sessions per week, depending on what our timetable looks like. And within the sessions, we cover all of the skills mentioned previously. So they're really carefully planned step-by-step progression. So at the beginning of the year, we're working with really tiny amounts, really tiny numbers, and how they can come together and be split apart. And we're up to the point where we're working within 10 at the moment. Lots of children have a really good understanding of numbers bigger than that, but what we really want is for them to master how they can, those lower numbers can be broken down and put back together in loads of different ways, whether you're breaking it into 2 parts, 3 parts. If it's 8, it can be broken into 8 parts. It's really understanding and manipulating the smaller numbers, which is really getting that in depth, because that for us is something that we call mastery. If they can master that, then they can sort of do lots of other things when they start doing larger amounts as well. So we're continuously making connections between real life experiences, previous learning, and that children are constantly joining in with activities. So it's not us sitting and telling them stuff, it's lots of doing and loads of using their fingers for showing different things. And I've got a slide later on with all the resources that we use, some of the resources anyway that we use. So as well as the standalone sessions that we have, we've got continuous provision. So that is the activities that children have access to during their free choice times within our learning environment, inside and outside the classrooms. So the children can experience these through play, investigation, just to sort of further extend their understanding of the concepts. And that provision that we provide changes most weeks. So we will add things and take things away from our classrooms and inside and outside to make the children sort of challenged in ways that connect with what our topic is. And it can be really subtle things, but they will notice and play around with stuff. And we will embed the maths focus of the week through the classroom routine. So if we're looking at the number 6, for instance, it might be, can you put 6 pencils back into the pot? Or your challenge is, oh, I'm going to choose these children. Oh, I've got 6 children and they're going to go and line up first. So it's just trying to feed it in wherever we can. And we incorporate further experiences for some children that require consolidation. So obviously every child is different. Some might find it more of a challenge to work with different concepts than others. So we might use small group times or one-to-one within play to help them understand. So it's not that everybody gets swept along and if you're left behind, you're left behind. We keep pulling children out and sorting things out within their play just to try and help them understand the different concepts. So some of the resources that we use. Numberblocks. If you haven't seen it, it's great. I don't watch spare time, but I know most of the words for all of them. It really, really helps. I think the personification of blocks works. I have a whole bunch of them on my desk here. They understand it. It's very, very cleverly created. Numicon, so as I showed you before, this plastic stuff is really great. They see patterns. Children who are very visual can understand that the colour corresponds to a number. You can put things through the holes that really can manipulate stuff. It's really good, really great resource. Like I said before, fingers, not only is it dexterity, it's that understanding that a high 5 means 5 fingers. And it becomes really sort of just like, it's that motor control. They know that if they're showing 3, if it's behind their back, it's still 3. Multi-link cubes, I'm sure everybody has been familiar with these at some point in their lives. They haven't changed. Dice, huge resource that most people have in their home. It really helps with something that we'll speak about later, about subitizing. That at the top is a 10 frame. So we use these. It fits really nicely with the use of Numicon, actually, because it's that understanding that you've got 5 on the top and 5 at the bottom. You can visualize what 8 and 2 might look like. We use them for all sorts of things. Measuring jugs. Water play. So it's not always structured. It's understanding that when something might be overflowing, or if it's soon to be overflowing, or if it might be half full, it's just letting children explore. Same with sand, completely open-ended resources. We don't, obviously we introduce new activities at these places, but they're not spaces in our classroom that are structured. The children are exploring always in these spaces, and it's up to them what they're doing there. Balances, so weighing heavy and lighter. Numicon is also very clever because obviously it's weighted. So if you put 7 and 3 in one side and you put a 10 in the other side, then they will be equal. This is a reckon rec. So some people might think it's an abacus. It looks like an abacus. We use these across Key Stage 1. They use them in Year 1 and Year 2. Again, you can see you've got 5 on one side, 5 on the other side, 20 altogether, and it's all about just visualizing and moving, physically moving things to understand that composition of number. Much more. I can't give you a whole tour of the classroom, but maths comes into absolutely everything that we do. So it's a very fun one. Now, key concepts. Here's where some of the nice language comes in. So wherever you see blue writing, when I send out the PDF, you'll be able to click on these and it tells you more about them. So each of these slides, I'll just read through and then you can, at your leisure, if you like, look through. But so we've got cardinality and counting. That is, so the cardinal value of a number refers to the quantity of things it represents. So the numerosity, so how manyness, the threeness of 3, for instance. So when children understand the cardinality of numbers, they know what the number means in terms of knowing how many things it refers to. So it's understanding that the number 3 equates to 3 objects or 3 of something. Comparison, composition, pattern, shape and space, and measures. So there are 6 key areas of maths. So each of the next slides will just go through one point about each. So cardinality and counting. When children understand the cardinality of numbers, they know what the numbers mean in terms of knowing how many things they are referring to. Comparison, so comparing numbers involves knowing which numbers are worth more or less than each other. Composition is learning to see a whole number and its parts. So we do lots of that about breaking things up. So if I might show the children 5 on my hand, I'll ask them, can you show me in a different way? And they might incorporate 2 hands then and show me 1 and 4, for instance. So it's understanding how they can break those numbers down. At the same time is a key development of children's number understanding. So it's just fingers are the best. they go so many different ways, and it's like they're never going to change really. Pattern, so developing an awareness of pattern. Children have a really good natural understanding to this, especially when it comes to music, when it comes to movement. It's almost innate. But sometimes when it becomes more abstract, for instance, colours, we need to incorporate all of those other things. So it might be colours and music comes in at the same time, using loads of different resources, and understanding how that then will, in further years, come onto mathematical relationships as well. Shape and space. So mathematically, the areas of shape and space are about developing visualizing skills and understanding relationships such as the effect of movement and combining shapes. So when later in the year, when we cover a bit of a space topic, we do a really nice activity where we make rockets out of 2D shapes, and the adults take photographs of them, and then the children are provided with the shapes and they see if they can create that picture again out of the shapes. So it's a lot of spatial understanding as well. Measuring in maths is based on the idea of using numbers of units in order to compare attributes such as length or capacity. Now that sounds like they're going to be out there with their tape measures. They're not. Some of them might be, but they're not. We're going to be using lots of non-standard units. It might be footprints, it might be handprints, it could be loads of different things, but it's understanding that if I have 5 conkers and something is 5 conkers long, then my 5 conkers long is longer than somebody else's 3 conkers long. It's developing lots of initial developing of understanding. So, how can you support your child at home? Keep doing what you're doing for a start. Life is mathematical development and understanding. So all of the conversations that you have day to day with your child is helping, and it always will do. But to build number recognition, you can look for numbers on houses, on car number plates, bus timetables, anywhere you want. You'll find stuff there. Comparing weight, height of different things, using all of those words that you might use. It doesn't have to be looking at the numbers on a weighing scale. It could be have a feel of this bag. Oh my goodness, it's so heavy. Can you pick it up? Oh, it's really heavy for me too. I think that you could take that, you know, it's all of those little conversations that you can have. Playing games with dice and dominoes. So any of the things where that has like the dot patterns like a dice are fantastic, because the children get to understand and just know that that pattern means 5. That pattern means 3. They just it's subitizing, which is something that I'll come on to in a second, but they are fantastic. Measuring everything, so you don't have to use real measurements like centimeters and meters. You can try hand spans, you can talk about paces. I wonder how far the car is in the car park from the shop. Oh, I think it's going to be 5 jumps. I think it's going to be 20 jumps, whatever. Counting, just counting every day. I think you're going to be ready by the time I've counted to 20, you know, like all of those things that I'm sure lots of people are already doing. And then more structured things like making kebabs, putting things in patterns, creating just fun ways of incorporating pattern making. Another thing that can be done, this is not an absolute must by any means. I know there's a lot of talk about screen time, but an option that school provides is a website called RMA Easy Maths. Some children I know are already using it. Every child in school has a login. The login's stuck into your child's reading record. Each child progresses at their own pace. So the program works in a way that it remembers when children get things correct or incorrect, and then it reintroduces skills to help them practice it. So as much as you can, try not to help them get it right, because it will help them in the long run to re-practice skills. I've heard good things about it, but I don't use it myself. But it's a really good program, and it uses lots of auditory. So if child have headphones or if they're on a device, it will ask a question rather than expecting reading to happen. So that is it's glitching. There we go. So the goals at the end of the year, these are the goals that we will be assessing your child against, whether they can or can't do these things. So there's number and there's numerical pattern. Number, to have a deep understanding of the numbers to 10. So like I said before, it's keeping those numbers actually quite low, but understanding the composition of each number. So you might hear the phrase number bonds. Number bonds so the number bonds, for instance, to 7, like I've got here, could be 6 and 1, could be 4 and 3, could be 2 and 5. It's all of the ways that that number can be created. There's our lovely word, subitize. So my key phrase is quick, take a picture with your eyes. And they go, subitize. And it's just that, not counting, not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's straight away, oh, I saw 2 and 2. I know that 2 and 2 makes 4. That must be 4. They're really, really good at doing this. We don't expect children to subitize anything beyond 5, because 5 is pretty much where the brain can manage. Obviously, adults can work it out when we see things, but it's subitizing up to 5. So it's a great one for if there's fruit in a fruit bowl, or if they've got peas left on a plate that there's not very many. Quick, cover it up. How many did you see? What was it? Automatically recalling without reference to rhymes or counting the number bonds. So actually knowing, because we've done all of this work over using fingers and using all of the different resources, we're hoping by the end of the year the children will be able to automatically tell me what numbers can make 5, and they'll be able to give us those facts back again. And then the number bonds to 10, including doubling. So doubling's a really nice one for pattern. Pairing socks, pairing gloves, helping with all sorts of things where you can match stuff together. It's a really nice practical one for doubling. Then you've got numerical patterns. So verbally counting beyond 20, recognizing the pattern in the counting system. So that crossing the boundary, like I said, so you've got 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. comparing quantities of up to 10 in different contexts. So recognizing when one quantity is greater than, less than, or the same as the other quantity. So we use lots of hand gestures. We've got this one, which is same as or equal to. We've got more, and then we've got less. So if you see your child doing any of these things, that's probably what they're doing. And exploring and representing patterns within numbers up to 10, so including evens and odds. Again, Number Blocks does this very well. There's a very nice episode where they've got the odd block and the flat top. Numicon does it very well as well. As you can see, my 7 has got an odd block on the top. Flat tops are even, odd blocks are odd. And then how quantities can be distributed equally. So that's where we get the snack out and we can see how we can share things or not share things. I have rattled through that. It would be lovely to hear any questions, or if you come up with any questions when you might look back over this, please just email us or let us know or ask us at the end of the day, or parent consultations are coming up as well. We wanted to do this to try and help if there's anything that we can do to support with things at home, or your understanding of what's happening, because this is the first year of school. There are many other years, there'll be many other maths words that you're introduced to, but we want to help early on so you don't get too confused as you go. But the children are doing an amazing job and we're really happy with the progress that they're making. So keep doing all the things that you're doing at home as well. It's much appreciated. We have them for some of the time, but you have them for most of the time. So everything that you do makes a big impact. If any, I don't know, oh gosh, my screen is completely gone. I'm going to stop sharing just now. I can see people's things and I can see the chat box. So if there was anything anybody wants to ask, just pop it in the chat or turn your video on and give me a wave or any of those things that I can unmute you. If not, we can stop the video and we can say bye. But I really appreciate you coming. Oh, someone sent me a heart. Thanks. But it's really nice to see you all. So I think I'm going to stop